Hello and welcome. Happy Tuesday. Here we are with another episode of The Healing Home. I'm your host, Michelle. And today I am super pleased to be inviting my good friend Legs on. She is here with the False Reality podcast as well as Bear Lake Alchemy. And I'm really excited for our conversation. I've gotten to know Legs pretty well over the last handful of months. And I'm just really excited for her and her husband and what they're doing and all the things that they've learned upon their journey. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have her on. So her and her husband, they live in Idaho where they raise chickens, they preserve their own food, and continue to develop the skills needed to live a life more self-sufficiently. So we're going to talk a lot about homemaking and their specific individual experience with the chickens and everything else that Legs is doing. She's creating beautiful food and pies that I'm seeing her post on their Instagram all the time. And I'm always wanting to go over to their house for dinner, honestly, because everything she cooks looks amazing. And I can tell there's lots of love going into it. And it's going to be a really nice conversation. Her and her boyfriend also, or sorry, boyfriend. I'm calling her boyfriend. It's her husband. I'm sorry, Legs. They are married, and her and her husband they host the False Reality Check, which you can find on Rockfin, and I have all their links down below if you're looking more into that. And I know Bear Lake Alchemy is kind of their newer project, so I want to pick her brain on that and where they see this project going and what are some of their goals with it. So, with all of that said, will help me in welcoming Legs to the podcast.
Hello, Michelle.
Hello. How's it going? Sorry, Buffalo, for keeping to call you, say boyfriend, not husband.
Oh my gosh, I cracked up. I was like, oh, yeah. He is a friend, and he's a man. So I wouldn't say boy, but yeah.
Indeed. How are you doing this afternoon?
Oh, fantastic. I am so happy to be here. Before we jumped on, and earlier in the day, I had another power outage. So I was kind of freaking out that this was not going to work, but it did. So thank goodness. I am so grateful, thankful, honored to be here with you and anyone else that's watching or watching later. But yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome. I feel the same way. And when you sent me that message, as I said backstage, I know the feeling because out here, if the power goes out, it's kind of like you don't know why, when, if it's going to come back on within a reasonable time. We too have been lucky where it's gone off and then it comes back on with maybe within a half hour or something. But
Right.
yeah, it can be stressful, especially in today's world where we are doing the things we're doing with computers and scheduling and all this stuff. It just adds an extra layer. But to me, it's worth living more rurally and having more of a risk of losing these amenities than it is to stay within, a city limit, what have you.
100%. Yeah. If anything, it's not so much when the power goes out. I'm not worried about how I'm going to connect to the internet. More so, how am I going to get heat inside the trailer? because we recently got a pellet stove, and that thing it heats this trailer up to like 80 degrees. So
Whoa.
we are summertime all 24/7. Well, I shouldn't say 24/7. We turn it off at night, but throughout the day, it stays pretty warm in here. So we're nice and toasty, while outside it's maybe 10, 15 degrees, But yeah, one of the many lessons we've learned up here is having a backup for everything. So we have a backup generator just in case the power goes out for longer, and we can always just hook up the pellet stove and be ready for that.
Nice. That's awesome. That is one of the things that we'll talk about. I want to know about your lessons because to me, I always love learning about people's lessons and my own included in that, because there's so much value from new experiences and taking risks. And there's just something so wise that comes from doing all these things. And I know you guys have had an interesting journey. There's been ups and downs. There's been a lot of change. And so, yeah, with that said, can you just give us a little bit about your background, talk a little bit about False Reality Check and how that kind of came to be? And now you guys are into Bear Lake Alchemy, which is kind of a newer thing. So if you just want to give a little rundown for folks who might not know your story.
All right, let's see. Where can I begin? Well, Southern California, born and raised. We've only been up here for it's only been over a year. So fairly new to this life. But yeah, back in Southern California, AKA Babylon, man, we lived a totally different life. We had city life, you have everything given to you, and from the start, as a kid and my upbringing, I kind of had a weird look at the world. My parents, I grew up in a alcoholic household. My father was an alcoholic. My mom pretty much did everything. She had to fill that masculine and feminine role. So in a way, I kind of unknowingly learned that, and am trying to unlearn that as I'm up here. But yeah, so had that as a kid. Fast forward, I did the college thing. I got the career. I did everything that a woman in Babylon is told to do, I guess. It is expected of her to do. We're in the modern world, we're viewed as we got to have kids, we got to have the career, we got to take care of the family, protect the family, and in a way, having to do all that, it kind of emasculates the male role. And I didn't really see that until came up here and kind of interacting with my husband, Buffalo, aka, I'm sure it's going to slip because the name always slips, but Ricky. Yeah, it's just learning that dynamic and fixing that dynamic between us. But yeah, career life, I learned a lot. In my career, I was a field biologist. I have a master's degree, so I am like fully indoctrinated. I am the ideal robot for the machine that runs Babylon. And I was all in with that. I didn't want kids. I never thought I belonged in the kitchen. I just wanted to excel in my career, make money, and that was like my main goal. But there was always a small part of me that was just itching to get out. Like, I had a feeling this was not it for me, but I never followed that intuition. It was just some little voice that always came up and was like, there's more to this life. This is not all for you. But I didn't listen to it until, honestly, our first psychedelic trip. And I've talked about this before on our show, on False Reality Check and other podcasts, but that really opened my eyes to a whole different plane in this realm that we're living in. And with that being said, I went from just super robot, unconscious, not living a life of intention, to starting to slowly develop that skill of living in intention, being present. But it made it kind of hard in Babylon, when you're surrounded by people that just don't want to hear anything you have to say about, homemaking, or like even I had a garden in the backyard. We had a small patio. We bought a condo and we lived in it for maybe 6 years, and we had a small patio, and I made the best of it. And I had a garden back there, and I started to develop these new skills after that trip. And I wanted to talk to people about it and share, and no one wanted to hear it. And my coworkers, when you're in a career path, you spend more time with your coworkers, you spend more time at work, you give your full self to them. Then when you get home, it's kind of hard to want to give your full self to your partner or your family. So it's an unfair balance. And but yeah, so people didn't want to hear it, and I still would press on and try and let them hear my thoughts about things, and no one cared. Sorry if you hear my dog walking in. She's like tiptoeing in.
It's all good.
A little clacking. But yeah, so my mindset shifted to a more like judgmental, where I would just shut people off and like, oh, you're never going to learn. I don't want you in my life, when that's not the way to live at all. And I've learned that now. But yeah, so fast forward, I'm slowly developing these skills, gardening, making food for myself. And then the scamdemic happened. And I was in a position in my job where they needed me. I didn't need them. Like, they needed me. So I could pretty much do what I wanted. If anyone listening or watching is in a career and you have your job, just be in a position where they need you. That's like the best position to be in. But yeah, so the mandates came down. They required us to put the face diaper on, to wipe off clean surfaces, or clean your surfaces after you touch them. Just nonsense, and I didn't follow any of it. And it definitely made my boss nervous. But I kept trying to be my true self, and just knowing in my heart that this was wrong, and just going forward on my path of just being myself, living my life, not giving into this nonsense. And it was a blessing in disguise, because eventually the jab was implemented at my job, and I refused. I did not want to do it just to keep this job I wasn't happy at. It was a struggle for me, because with my job as a field biologist, I gained experience mostly with bird observation, plant observation. To give you an idea of what I used to do, I would go to a project site. It could be a completely disturbed lot with just dirt, maybe a few trash cans, or it could be some pristine piece of land out in the desert covered in Joshua trees. Those hurt. Like I hated those kind of projects, because I knew that there was going to be a warehouse an Amazon warehouse that was going to replace this beautiful piece of land, and I'm playing part in that. And for me, when I had my psychedelic trip, I felt like I needed to connect to nature more, to just something, Mother Earth. And that's why I started the garden. And I put up some bird feeders, and everything would come to me. And that was like my own little environment of just being able to go in the backyard and connect, So having that struggle of, I want to be a part of nature and take care of nature, yet in my job I'm destroying it. That was hard. Like, there was a bunch of projects where burrowing owl, for example, they're a bird, an owl that lives in the ground. They are active in the day, which is very unique, because most owls, at nighttime they're mostly active, and in the evening and at dusk. But this owl, 24/7, they were outside their burrow, ready to go. I had a project where I had to displace those owls off a piece of land that they were there first, but QVC came in and was like, I want to build a warehouse here. We need to get these owls out of here. So I had to help with that. And that was kind of the first nail in the coffin, where I'm like, am I really going to be doing this the rest of my life? Like, helping destroy things that I love and find so precious. And so that was like the first, this is not going to work forever. And yeah, just circling back to the whole scamdemic, I said no to the jab. And my boss and my boss's boss, they wanted to talk to me about it. They wanted to do everything they could to keep me. And I don't know what they could have done. I'll never know, because I didn't go to that meeting. I made a decision right when that email came in that, okay, I'm going to quit. This is it. I'm not going to put up with this anymore. I think this is a blessing in disguise, and it's time to move on to bigger and better things. And same thing happened with Buffalo. Mandate came down on his job, so he quit, and we decided to sell our house, take a chance, and move up to Idaho to just live a more intentional life, a life that we are going to be happy in, a life that we can give to each other, all of ourselves, not just to our job, but just to be present. And so here we are in Idaho. We are living on a piece of land that has been in my husband's family for a very long time. His grandfather owned this property, and he passed away in, I think, the early 90s. But yeah, his last name is all over this town. He's well known in this town, his grandfather. So Buffalo and his family, they have roots here. And we want to develop those roots and hopefully, if we're fortunate enough, bring a family of our own up in this place, because it is magical. It is beautiful. And yeah, we're living in a single wide trailer on maybe a quarter acre of land, but we also have a back pasture that is maybe 5 acres that we can utilize. So in the future, definitely gonna get some more animals. But for now, we're just learning little by little as we go. And yeah, that's the gist of it. I don't know if I just rambled on, if you want to know anything else, but yeah, I think that's the gist.
I loved that ramble.
Good.
Yeah.
So, oh man.
No, it's great. I love hearing. I hear a little bit of an echo. Might just be on my end.
You sound good to me.
Okay, cool. No, I love hearing more of your story. And I know that we've talked, on your show, Vacation Forever, and then we also talked on False Reality Check, but that was when you were having me on. So I wasn't able to hear the entire breadth of everything. I just love the fact that it was like the universe gave you these gifts of the scamdemic. And I think we all the people that had eyes to see and a heart to feel, it was a blessing for all those people, because we were the ones that were kind of like, yeah, no. And most of the people, yourselves included, that said no to a lot of these things are seriously just like continue to grow exponentially from all I can see. And I can say that for myself, and I can say it for Mario as well, because it just things just got better as all that happened. And as painful as it was and everything else, that was what had to happen for the fires to be lit under so many asses. And it was really cool to see the people that just hunkered down and were like, no, I'm going to stick with this, and we're going to do the things we want to do. And I love that Buffalo has the roots there with all of his family. That's really freaking cool. And I do get the sense that you guys will be able to, deepen those roots and bring some little legs and buffaloes in to share the party with you. Because when the intention is there, that's exactly what happens,
Oh yeah. No, we're in a really good spot right now, and I'm so thankful for everything. And first getting up here, it was tough. Like, not saying we didn't know what to do. We had an idea of what we wanted, but unfortunately, we came up here with my in-laws that are, well, you don't know, but they're not to be mean, but they're toxic. They're very negative. And we were trying to get away from that in Southern California, because that's what we were surrounded by. And so they kind of invited themselves up here with us, and we had a few months of them being here, and until it just blew up, and the divine masculine came out of Buffalo and handled that situation. But here we are now, and we still, 100% don't know what we're doing. We're kind of just going with the flow, and any challenges that come up, we face them head on together. And that's key, because in the past it was, I think of our dynamic in the past, and just me unknowingly, I would, emasculate him not even realizing it by, not listening to something he said. Like, and he would be totally 100% right about something. And I would just be like, oh no, let's do it this way. I think we should do it this way. Cause I don't know. I'm trying to unlearn that. And it's a behavior that, I gained from my childhood, just from my upbringing, being around other women, career women that were always like, I don't need no man, so somehow subconsciously that came into me. But yeah, we're doing great. I gotta say, compared to where we started last year, I think we're definitely on our way with things.
Yeah, I can tell. And I love I love seeing both sexes settle into their roles. I think um it's one of the sexiest things that can happen. I mean, honestly. And when you start to do it yourself, and then I've said this before, but once you do it, your partner is able to then step into their role. It works off of each other. So there's just this like instinctual thing inside of us that lights up when your partner is stepping into their role. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was because you are stepping into the role of being more of a homemaker and being in the kitchen and just like diving into that and loving it, how was Buffalo supportive in that way? And how did his support encourage you to even dive deeper into it and just really start to sink in?
Oh man, let's see. I don't know how this dynamic just happened. I think it was me having to realize that this is a union of two opposites. We're coming together to create something, and it's not just up to me. It's not my all of me. I don't have to do all this, and just me having that realization really helped the whole situation. And for him, um, he would push me to. I'd be interested in something, like I say I wanted to start an indoor garden, and he'd help me get the supplies for it. He would, give me words of encouragement, and just letting me know that by doing this, you're also helping me in return. Just that little gratitude, and knowing that he provides, and just hearing him, just having him and the idea that he can take care of us no matter what. And he's really stepped into that role as the provider. And it feels good because I don't have to feel pressured to I provide, but not so much in money or whatever gold, whatever we get in exchange for services he provides. But yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but I don't know. We just work together very well, and we're honest with each other, and we share everything. And when I mess up, he lets me know, and vice versa. It's that communication that we always keep. We just communicate everything. That's it. That's like the key.
Yeah, yep, you answered it. Yeah, it sounds very similar to the situation that Mario and I have. And I think that the support of each other, you're providing more than you realize when you're not providing anything at all. Do you know what I mean? Um, and just like I had a similar thing where I carried a lot of guilt for stepping into my role for a long time. And I know I've talked about this before, but the guilt would be kind of so overwhelming at points that then it would make me freeze, because it was just like, then it would be like I don't know what to do because I feel like I'm not bringing in the money, or it's not enough, or whatever. And Mario would always remind me that you're providing something that you can't necessarily see, and you're allowing me to be a better person, or to do the work I need to do in order to provide, and things like that. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that people who are still kind of in the more mainstream feminist view get wrong. And they don't understand that because you're not going to a job and like filling your day with nonsense, that you're not doing something. It's really interesting, and it's major programming that takes a long time to get out of. Some
Oh,
people can get out of it long, like quicker than others. Um, but for me, I was never like a career woman. I was just like a career barista or like an artisan soap shop
for sure.
worker. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And so it was always kind of more of these menial jobs that kept your wheels spinning, 40 hours a week to bring home like, $1,000, $1,200 or whatever the minimal amount is. And Mario one day was just like, you just need to like quit your job. And if you quit your job, it'll help both of us. And then you'll be able to work on your project and you can do this and that. And it was just like, whoa. I mean, my mind just was split open because I never would have imagined somebody telling me that was okay, and he was okay with it. And so I find too in our community that there are more men that see that value and see how it's a really valuable thing to allow your lady and then in turn allow yourself to do these things. And
Oh, yeah.
it just like, yeah, provides so much more self-confidence and everything else. And I don't know, there's always challenges. Just because you
Right.
don't work a job doesn't mean that it's not going to be hard or there's not going to be struggle or what have you. But you hit it on the head with the communication, and that is the key. And especially having the constructive criticism. And Chance and I talked about this in our episode a little bit better last week, of
Right.
just how important that is to be able to take this stuff and like tough love and it being okay for somebody to tell you, hey, that's actually not that productive. And maybe if we did it this way, and it's all in the approach, right? If you have a partner that's just going to yell at you and tell you it's wrong, well, that's not going to go over very well. And then the behavior will probably just worsen on both ends. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
And it's funny coming up here, I kind of fell into that trap again of, yeah, first few months, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not making any money. What am I going to do with my life? I don't know how to do anything. Like, what am I doing? And the city clerk reached out to me and wanted me to come in 3 days a week and help her out. And hearing that, I was like, oh my gosh, I can, bring in some money. I can do something. And I did that for maybe a few months, but once again, in the back of my mind, that little voice was like, you probably shouldn't be doing this. You're falling into that old trap again of you need to work to make money. And finally, kind of similar to what Mario told you, Buffalo straight up one day was like, you probably just shouldn't go in anymore. and and I thought about it because I was also swamped with doing like chicken pot pie orders or just making little things for people around town. And I just never thought I can just do that and not have to work. It had to take him to tell me, you don't have to work. I got this. We're going to figure this out. And so I quit that job. Well, I didn't quit. I told her I'm taking a break. And then I was fired through a newspaper ad. Like I was reading the newspaper one morning and then I see my job description in there and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm fired now.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah. Immediately I called her or I sent her a text because I knew she was working and I'm like, hey, and I sent a picture of the article. I'm like, hey, I guess I'm fired. And she said, oh, I thought you weren't coming back, blah, blah, and got into this whole thing. And she's like, I'm sorry, I'm thankful for everything you did. Thank you so much. And then my response was kind of, I responded back like, well, you weren't thankful enough to let me know you were going to fire me in the newspaper. And that was the last exchange we had. So,
Oh,
yeah.
man. Well, that's cool. That's cool that you're making, that you have orders for the community around you for your food.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's my way of giving back to the community and bringing in a little bit little bit of income for me and for Buffalo. And that's kind of the direction for Bear Lake Alchemy, what we want to do. Eventually, maybe push products out online and send it out to various folks that are listeners, whatever, that are come across our page. But for now, keeping it local in the community, there's plenty of opportunity in terms of farmers markets. Like summer, come spring and summer, that's the time to really dive in and sell whatever you're going to sell, because the tourists come through, and the population, it jumps up in town from like 500 to maybe 2,000 people. So it's more opportunity to sell goods, and people will pay. Like out of towners don't know any better, and they will they will pay for quality, homemade, free range, whatever, all the taglines, they'll pay for that. But yeah, it's so I can at the same time do that, but also I'm helping out the community too. Sometimes I just make things and I'll take it over to the neighbor, and or just I give things away just because that's who I am. I don't know. I love creating and giving it away, even if I don't get anything in return. I don't know. That's just always been my nature. And sometimes that bites me in the butt, and I got to be careful about that. But I know the people around me have good intentions. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Giving away is good because I don't know. I love doing it too, because I feel like a lot of times you open people to new things that they never had before. And so even if they don't come back to you and they might not want that one thing again, it might just open them up to the literal possibility or thought that they can get something homemade from somebody without fear. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And or that one time this thing worked or it tasted really good, maybe I can find it from someone else that makes it or whatever, it just opens up all these doors. um and I really like that, and I see that with Bear Lake Alchemy happening, and I love that you kind of like offered up, I think it was like apple pie filling at one point. I think you had canned or something. There was like canned apples or something, and then you did sauerkraut. And I was kind of
Yeah.
like, sweet. I see her trying to kind of like move this stuff and share her products. So it's really cool. And I think that's an awesome movement. And you're right. People will pay for it. And people like to support people who are doing this stuff, especially people who are still in the Babylon mindset, who might be career people who aren't in this lifetime. They might not kick that bucket, and that's okay. But in turn, they'll probably support people who are, because they see something in that. And I've even had my dad tell me that, he's like, sometimes I sit back and I'm almost envious of your lifestyle. And it's just so cool because there's so many people that will never be able to do what you guys are doing. And to us, it's not that extreme. It's
Right.
not weird to not have a TV or a microwave, or it's not weird to like make this stuff or garden all day or something. But to people who aren't used to it, it's like, whoa, what? And
Right.
it's like kind of like to them, that's like retirement. But
Yeah.
and so they wait till they're like 65 to do it.
Yeah, and that goes back to the conversation you had last week with Chance, is this idea of guilty productivity. And I know my family, they'll call me, and when my aunts will call me and they'll ask me, "Oh, so what does your day look like?" Like what do you do? And immediately I try to scramble and try to make myself seem important. Like I'm doing this, when I shouldn't do that. I don't have to explain myself to anybody, and just the idea of, I kind of just say, every day isn't the same. Some things come up, some challenges come up out of nowhere that we have to deal with. It's not the monotonous day that I used to have in Southern California. It's different. I'll garden. I'll go clean out the chicken coop, and they don't understand it. Like you said, they think I'm just some lazy sack in retirement mode, when honestly, I don't think I've ever worked as hard in my life as I am now. Like yeah, I may not be getting shekels for it, but I don't care. I'm productive as hell. And they don't understand it, and that's their problem, not mine.
Yeah, no, right on. Leave it to the mystery for them to find out. They can
Yeah.
figure it out. But yeah, I know these things, the guilt that can come from somebody asking you that question of, well, what do you do in a day? Like I used to feel that way when Mario would say, well, what'd you do today? And I'd be like, I did this, and then I did that, and then I did that. And then I'm like, well, what did you just relax? Like, what'd you do?
Yeah.
Because you know you did stuff. Don't feel like you need to like have this huge answer of all these lofty things. You know, you're not going to change the world in a day, right?
Right.
So it's just interesting. It's so interesting how I love seeing people's processes going through this change, you know. And I did see Lonnie is in the chat, and I have been thinking about her too.
Lanny. Oh, yeah.
Lanny's how you say her name.
Lanny, greener postures.
Yeah, I follow your stuff on Instagram. I love what you're doing too, and I got my eye on you, lady. Get you up in this podcast because I just love seeing people creating more things that they're loving and they find their passion and everything else. And so moving into more of the chicken area, one of the weaves with you that I've noticed is that so you talked about your connection with the birds and you know doing the plant observation and the wildlife observation. But I was talking to Mario and I was like, oh, it's so cool. She totally has a bird weave because you've also shared in our private chats just how you kind of almost use birds as like a divination tool. When I see you communicating with them and you kind of are very good about observing when they come into your realm, when they come into your day, what did they have to say to you and stuff like that. So now you have this whole weave with the chickens. And so how do you see those worlds colliding and what does that feel like to you now that you have kind of like your own brood basically going on?
Right. And it's so funny that my past career life has prepared me for this moment, you know. It's just the little observations I would make of from just watching birds in the field, how they nest, how they go search for food, um, how they mate, you know, just those things I never thought I'd be able to apply to the chickens we have right now. And I'm just going to say this, birds are not drones. Maybe there's some birds that are drones, but the ones I have interacted with, they are real and they are not drones. So I don't believe that for a second. But yeah, it seems I didn't realize this connection that I have with birds until I'm trying to think back. I had an experience at my old job where I got to observe a red-tailed hawk nest for a season. So I watched the mother prepare the nest. I watched her sit on those eggs night and day and pouring rain, you know, and I watched the male come and feed her, bring her food, and sometimes the male would hang out and she'd go off and do her thing and then come back. But it was interesting to watch that dynamic. And unfortunately, so the project they were basically going to take out this piece of land that was like a motocross arena park. I don't know. They did motocross there, and there was a bunch of different tracks. They were going to level it all and put a parking lot for a Walmart warehouse that was just east of it. So another warehouse. But there was a stand of eucalyptus trees that were maybe about 50 feet tall, perfect for raptors. So a red-tailed hawk decided to nest there, and I had to observe the nest and basically watch it until it was completed, and then give the go to okay, you can take them out and take out the trees, and you can do whatever you're going to do. So, I put so much hope, and it brought me so much joy to see this little bird survive, this little juvenile survive after all this. And unfortunately, it ended up falling out of the nest and it didn't make it. And that really hit me hard. I'm like, man, I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. So just, that was my first observation, like real true observation of bird behavior. And it was red-tailed hawk, not knowing that animal is my totem. It is my my guide, one of my guides. And I learned that that bird is significant in my life because it's just started showing up in moments that moments where I wasn't being present. I needed a reminder to come back into my body. That bird would always show up. So every time I see that bird, it's a reminder for me. Hawks, they're considered messengers, similar to Mercury, messenger of the gods. And red-tailed hawk is my messenger to stay present and to enjoy life, But yeah, so just that was a big thing for me. And over time with my job, I got to watch more birds interact with each other and learn their behaviors. And so it prepared me for when we took I think it was like a 6-hour drive across Idaho, we got to western Idaho, and we picked up our flock, our egg layers. And oh my gosh, it was so funny just that morning picking them up, and they were all loud in the car, chirp, chirp, chirp. And I remember just trying to calm them down. And I'd close my eyes and I held onto that box and I was like, it's okay, guys. We're almost home. You guys are safe. You're going to have a great life. And I'm so thankful that you're here. Just giving that gratitude to them. And sure enough, they quieted down for a little bit. And then we had to stop and got out of the car, and then they got crazy again. But yeah, it's now that they're grown and I know kind of what to look for in terms of, they need food. The rooster is horny. He's gonna go jump on one of the hens. The rooster has like certain alert calls that he does for the hens, whether there's an alert call for food. Like if he finds food, he'll alert the hens and the hens come running. There's an alert call for if there's something in the vicinity and it's so funny because I'll hear the rooster do the call and I'm like, okay, then I'll immediately, like the hens, I'll look around and see, okay, something's here. But yeah, it's honestly, I'm not special. Anyone can do this. It's just paying attention and just being present and just observing things in this world. And over time, you can learn these skills too. But yeah, I've had so many more experiences with birds up here than I did in Southern California. And I think it's because, I am more in my body. I am more present. I'm living my intentional life the best I can. And the birds, they see that. The hens, they come running whenever I come outside. Like they see me and they're like, Mom, and they'll just run towards me and I give them love. And, when spring happened, hummingbird actually came and sat and meditated with me for I think it was the spring equinox, or is it spring equinox? Is that it? Okay. Yeah, I remember the sun was setting and I was just sitting there and it was getting colder and colder, but then I hear the hummingbird fly in and it literally sits on the fence line right next to me, just perches. I'm like, hey, I'm here. Good to see you. And I'm like, good to see you. I missed you. I haven't seen you since California. I got super stoked. I'm like, yeah. I shared with you and some other ladies, an experience I had with a Western tanager. Beautiful bird. The males are very, very pretty. They almost look like a I don't know, Dairy Gold popsicle, just yellow, red, really pretty bird. The females, not more dull in color, but long story short, female ran into one of our windows and I freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, and I looked out the window and she's on the floor, just, trying to figure out what's going on. And the chickens are around her and I'm like, oh no, I don't want the chickens to take her out. So I went out there with Buffalo and I was just watching, just observing her, seeing what was going on. And he wanted to pick her up and put her in one of the trees so nothing will come after her because she was not moving. She was messed up. So he attempted to pick her up, and that bird did not want anything to do with him. She immediately just alerted and freaked out. And so I told Ricky, step aside, let me see what I can do. And I sat with the bird, talked with the bird. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm going to put up some stickers in the window so this doesn't happen again. But I really want to help you. Please just come into my hand so I can lift you to safety, you know? And sure enough, that bird just hopped into my hand, and I picked her up and set her on the tree limb, and she hung out there for a little bit. And in the morning she was gone. She flew off, and she actually came back to visit me that afternoon. So I knew she was good. But yeah, it's amazing the experiences you can have with any type of wildlife, plant, bird, whatever. If you just, I don't know, if you just find yourself and have a daily practice, whatever, just live a more intentional life, the magic comes out in this world. It really does. And I've really felt it up here with birds. And like the red tail, they always come to me when I need a message or I need a reminder of something. Some random bird that I haven't seen in months or weeks will come by and get into my view, and I'm like, okay, that's the message I needed, you know? But this magic can happen with anything in this realm.
Yeah, amen to that. That is so awesome that the telepathy that's there. You know, the fact that that bird just knew exactly what to do with you and listened is freaking amazing. And I noticed that, you know, like you said, it's kind of with anything in nature, but even just like if you have domesticated animals and you actually literally take the time to talk to them. I mean, I always think about, I talk to my cat like he's a freaking person. I mean, straight up. Like
Yeah,
I'm like
you have to.
full on conversation, whatever, as if whatever. And then I think about all the animals out there who have owners who never talk to them or whatever. And then you can take this as far and deep as parents who have children who they never talk to or they don't
Yeah.
address them or whatever. And then you see as they grow just the apprehension they have to then deal with any person because they were never given that chance to have the interaction, the connection of, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? What's going on? I mean, the simplest questions can literally make somebody's day, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
animals are the same way. And I think that, yeah, the messages that they send are potent and they'll keep doing it until you listen,
Yes.
until you even just take the moment to be like, I keep seeing this. Why do I keep seeing it? And sometimes it's just literally for you to slow down to like ask that question, why do I keep seeing it? That could be the reason that you're seeing it, you know?
Right.
So it's really cool. I'm just super stoked to know that you guys are doing this and raising the chickens like this and they're in an environment that is special and welcoming and it's a home for them and that's really cool. And
Yeah.
so one of the things I wanted to ask you is so you guys harvested some of the chickens, right?
Yes.
I
So
re-
we had a flock of meat birds that we got after just maybe a month after we picked up our egg layers.
okay. And I remember watching this with you guys on Instagram, just showing, you didn't show the harvest, like actual, you know, whatever. But I was like, wow, sweet. You guys had a whole setup. And so if you could run through a little bit for somebody who, because I'm not familiar, I've never raised chickens or not currently raising them. So for somebody who has never done that, can you just run through quickly, kind of just like the setup for somebody that they might want to consider, or what does it take to set up a safe area to do the harvest?
Yeah, for sure. So the meat birds, there's various kinds that you can get. The most common one, oh my gosh, what's it called? It's like I forgot the name of it, but ours was like a cross between a red and that variety, which is the most common one. It's white. It's basic. I don't know if it's a leghorn. The name is escaping me right now, but you want to make sure you get a bird that is, you know, a meat bird and not a layer. You can get varieties that are both, and there are dual purpose. But for this case, we went straight meat bird because we knew that's what we wanted. We knew what the outcome was going to be. So we figured, let's try it out. And, when getting chickens, we were not prepared fully. We didn't have an outdoor enclosure where we could brood them and raise them. We actually raised them inside with us. We had a couple metal tins in our living room that we raised them in. And boy, after that, I joke with Buffalo. I'm like, after that, our immune systems are top notch. Like, we're unstoppable now because we were inhaling so much crap and just, oh my God, it was crazy. But yeah, so make sure you have a setup, whether it's indoor or outdoor, to brood these chickens. And you want to keep their temp like 80 degrees when they start, and just make sure they're comfortable and they have enough heat. And they'll let you know if they're not comfortable, whether it's not eating or not moving. You just have to be observant. You have to pay attention, and the birds, they will let you know what they need. The animals will let you know what they need. So we raised them, eventually took them outside. We had this rabbit hutch that we put them in outside, and we'd move it every day. And basically we moved it to give them fresh grass. Now you can keep them in an enclosure, whatever you want to do. But for us, we wanted them to be pasture raised. We wanted to see what all the huff was about, like pasture raised chicken, homegrown. We wanted to taste that. We wanted to experience it. So we had them on the grass every day, and we moved that grass. We moved them on different patches every day. And when it came time to process them, the first go for us, I think we did 8 birds. We had 15 total. We did 8 the first start, and then the other 7 were not quite at weight yet. So we waited, and we did those a month later, which I think we waited too long, but it's okay. So the first batch, basically what you need, if you want like the official setup that we had, you need something to put the bird in. We used a traffic cone, and you stick them head first, so that way their head is just exposed, and you can just nick that jugular, and they'll bleed out. If you do it right, they're gone within a second. There'll be some convulsions, just muscle. The heart's still pumping, getting blood, trying to get blood around the body. So the chicken will still be moving, and its eyes will be flipped, like it's winking, and it's a weird thing to see. It's very, I'm trying not to make it sound gruesome, but that's just how it is. They're going to convulse, but that they're not there because just doing it right, and they bleed out instantly and they're gone. So once they're done moving, you can take them out of that cone, immediately put them in a scalder. Some temperature has to be, I'm trying to remember, I think it was above 180. It was up there. You want it pretty hot. And the purpose of putting them in the scalder is to loosen up the feathers a little bit. And from there, you can hand pluck them, which takes hours and hours. That's what our ancestors used to do, is just hand pluck them, get those feathers out. Or you can use modern tech to its advantage and get a plucker. And it's basically like I would say it's like a washing machine drum with little rubber fingers in it, and it spins. And you throw the bird in there, and hit it with some cold water, and the feathers just come off clean. It's really quick. And then from there, you can go to your table where you're gonna not piece out, but I'm jumping ahead. You got to take off, the head, the feet, the innards, which is a very interesting process because you reach into that bird and it's still warm. Like, it was literally just alive. And that sensation is the weirdest sensation. I don't know how to describe it. It's just a trip. And what makes it even weirder is when you're pulling out, the intestines, the heart, the liver. One of the older birds that we had, I actually pulled out eggs that were forming, which was, we didn't know what they were at first. We were like, what is this? Does it have a tumor? We thought it was some kind of tumor, but then we realized, no, this bird was getting old enough to where it was going to lay soon. She was going to end up laying soon. So it was a trip. I took a few pictures of that. I don't know if I put that on Instagram. Probably not, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that part. I'd remember it though.
Yeah, that was interesting. And I remember Lanny was like, "You got to eat that. That is prime. That is good stuff." And
I believe it. Yeah.
Kind of freaked me out, but I think I ended up giving it to the dog or something, or the apple tree. I don't remember, but yeah, you pull out the insides, the guts, and then wash it off, and you're good to go. That's like the simplified version. The emotion behind it and how you feel is different for every person. I know the first batch of chickens, I was all business. Like, I knew what we needed to do. I did those cuts. I processed a few, maybe 5-6 birds myself, or I shouldn't say, maybe 4 or 5 birds myself, and then Buffalo did the rest. He was having more of a hard time emotionally on that first go. The second go, I had a really hard time. I couldn't do it. I don't know what it was. It was just, it was too much for me. Taking a life, it's serious. It's nothing to laugh at, especially when it's an animal that I'm sure they knew their purpose here. I know they knew their purpose here. At the end, they were ready to go. Like, I totally sensed it. They had enough, and they were like, okay, let's do this. But for me, I was not ready for that. That second one, and it hit hard. And I maybe did one bird, and Buffalo did the rest. I couldn't do it. But yeah, it's a very emotional experience. I remember before we did any of the processing, I saged, like, everything. I lit the sage. I said a few words to the birds, and gave my thanks and appreciation, and let them know that their life is not going to be in vain. We're going to use every piece of you that we can. And I really have. From, the feathers, you can't really utilize the feathers once they've been scalded and put in the plucker. So just gathered them up. You can use them for compost. You can, I think I put them in one of the garden beds or something, and they'll decompose over time. But yeah, from the bones, making bone broth, to the skin, rendering that, and getting some good fat. You can use every piece of the animal if you choose to. And I just feel it's right to respect the bird and do it that way. And I hate wasting anything like that, especially beautiful life that they had. They had a great life here, and I'm so happy for them. And there's one sitting in my fridge right now defrosting, because I'm going to cook it later this week. So yeah, but it's empowering to be able to grow your own food and just process it yourself on your own land. There's nothing like it. And it's something everyone should experience at least once,
Totally. Yeah. I look up to you guys for doing that, because there's a question. PK wants to know, what'd you do with the head?
Well, I have the skulls in the freezer right now. I was planning on doing something with them, some kind of artwork with them. But for
Nice.
now, the skulls they're frozen in the fridge. If anyone wants them, reach out, and I'd be happy to send them your way. But yeah, the feet we've kept, because throwing that in with the bone broth, gives you great collagen, and it's good for you. But yeah.
Yeah, totally. I know. It's even though we haven't raised chickens or our own meat, we source our meat from local farms. And there is such a huge difference, and I wanted to talk to you about this cuz I know you guys know the difference between buying meat at the grocery store versus having something that you've either raised yourself and it was pasture raised or you got it from a local farm. There is nothing like it. I remember eating both steaks and chicken from the farm that we get stuff from, and it was like, I have not had real beef or real chicken my whole life
Yeah.
until we ate like 100% grass-fed, pasture-raised, like never what they didn't have grain, whatever. It was the beef specifically. But oh my gosh, it's just it's the skin has a yellow color, it's not white. The chicken isn't slimy when it's raw, because I know, like, I have a couple friends who are vegetarians, and one of the women I was talking to about it, she was like, "I just can't do the whole slimy feeling or whatever." I was like, "Dude, baby, when you buy real chicken from a farm that was raised correctly, it's not slimy. It doesn't have that whatever. It's almost like this gel weird, like, the slime that
Yeah.
you get on that." And it's just a shame that a lot of people never get to experience that. And so if you ever have the opportunity to, it's something special. And I've talked to even my brother about it, who he loves to cook and everything else. And he's like, I bought a grass-fed steak and it was weird because it tasted different or whatever. I'm like, well, yeah, it tasted better. But unfortunately, you're not used to the taste, so then it's just weird, and then they kinda, like, give up on it or whatever. But it's interesting with that and the quality and the difference. And I remember buying, like, a broth kit from the farm, and there were, like, chicken heads and chicken feet and all of it in there, and it was the best bone broth I've ever made.
Yeah, 100%. There is a difference between store-bought and, pasture-raised, whatever, chicken, lamb, beef, whatever it is, that you're gonna consume. And for me, our egg layers, our meat birds, we did not give them crap food, we actually make our own feed for them. And by doing that, we we buy bags of, I don't know, red wheat. We buy bags of peas, sunflower. I'm trying to think what else we throw in there. There's not mealworms, boon worms. There's a type of worm that we throw in there to help them. Helps with their calcium on for the eggs, and you can do that. It's actually cheaper to just buy the components and put it together yourself, and you also know what you're giving your bird versus just buying a bag of feed from the store that probably has all the goodies that we consume when we buy just a store bought meat. Our chickens, we didn't give them corn. We wanted to see what it was like to not give them corn. We gave them the peas instead. But those are getting pretty pricey, so we might need to switch those out. We'll see. But even if you buy from someone that's growing their own meat, free range, it doesn't hurt to ask, hey, what are you feeding them? Because you're going to consume that too. And if you, I don't know, that's something that always comes to my mind first is like, what are these birds eating? Because I'm going to eat it too. What is this cow eating? And just to give an example, the lady we get our raw milk from, she has A2 cows, which is like the best. That's A2 milk. Raw milk is what you want. She gives her cows, they're just grass fed. That's it. She doesn't really supplement. They're not vaccinated. They're nothing. Versus another lady in town who has A2 cows, but she also gives them feed that has antibiotics in it or just some kind of component that they probably don't need. And in turn, if you drink that milk, you might have a bad reaction to it. And unfortunately, someone did have a bad reaction to her milk, and they were trying to figure out why did you get that rash? Like, it's an A2 cow, it's raw milk, but it was the feed. So just being cognizant of what the farmer is giving that piece of beef or chicken, whatever, that is key. And I can tell you that we are very careful with that. And it's either grass or just feed that we've put together ourselves. And yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but there is a difference between store-bought and free range for sure.
Yeah, I love knowing that you guys are making your own feed. That like just steps it up on all levels. And
Yeah.
yeah, man, the chickens obviously like are grateful, I'm sure too.
Oh yeah, they love it. They're so happy. And lately, I've actually been sprouting their wheat, their wheatgrass. Well, it comes as wheatgrass, but they're the wheat grains, the wheat berries. I've been sprouting them for them because I feel bad. We're surrounded by snow. There's like no grass anywhere. They have their run, which is just dirt, and they can dig and do their little dust bathing, which is really fun to watch. I don't know if you've ever seen a chicken dust bath or a bird dust bath in general. It's hilarious. I'll have to record it one day, but it's their way of just getting the parasites and cleaning themselves. They'll just roll in the dirt. It's hilarious. But yeah, I felt bad, and I'm like, I'm going to sprout these grains for them, and I'm sure they'll enjoy that. And every morning I go out, give them the grass, and they love it. And we're still getting eggs. So I don't know if that's contributing to that. But yeah, we're still getting eggs. Sprouting the seeds is important for anything. I mean, even for us, if we sprout things before we consume them, it takes it up a notch in terms of quality. So yeah. Michelle, I think you're muted.
Oh, am I there?
You're there.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Oh yeah, dude, they're totally appreciating that for sure. And just like you said, it's like when we sprout things, it's easier for our bodies to digest it and then absorb
Right.
those nutrients. And especially now that it's winter, they're gonna need, they'll need all the extra that they can get.
Exactly.
And one of the things I think it was on it was Odin's Alchemy a handful of weeks ago with Emily Moyer, and her and Ben were talking about grains and diets and what's good and what's not. And that's a big conversation, right? Because everybody's different and all that stuff. But one of the things that came up was like superfoods like quinoa, for example, and how Emily Moyer brought up the point of like a lot of times the cultures that these foods that we eat, where they come from, they have a totally different way of preparing all these grains. So, and most of them soak them for
Yeah.
8+ hours, in order to make them, healthier for your body or whatever.
Yeah.
And specifically something like with quinoa, I always think about quinoa with this because quinoa has, it's almost like a soapy compound that's on it. And if you don't rinse it, that's still in there. And sometimes if you've ever not rinsed quinoa and just thrown it in the water and cooked it, you'll see it's like really foamy or bubbly. Not the same foam as rice, but it almost does look kind of like soap bubbles because it's literally like a saponin like compound that's on there. And so just these little things that we're never really taught. It's not usually on the label. Sometimes it is, but it's all these things that you just like learn as you go or whatever.
Yeah. I'm interested in milling my own wheat so I can make bread. Like, I feel like I still need to get on that sourdough train. Like, that's one of my goals for this year is to perfect sourdough bread. But I also want to stop buying flour from the store and milling my own. And one of the key components of doing that is to soak the grains. Soak the grains for a little bit, soften them up, and then I'm trying to remember the process. I think you let them dry again, and then you can mill them, and you'll have flour that's more, healthy and rich and good, better for you to consume. Yeah, there's so much I want to do. There's so many things that I having the responsibility of feeding my family and taking care of not only myself, but my husband and my dog. And any future kids that we may have I'm learning all that right now. And it can be overwhelming, but I also know that just little by little, taking one thing, learning it, perfecting it, and then moving on to something else. That's just how I have to work, and I'm sure other people can agree. Because if I don't, I'm going to go crazy because there's so many things I want to do, but I just baby steps. I know I will get there, and yeah.
Oh, totally. And that's how I don't know, it's one of the lessons of life, I feel like, cuz how many times are you just hasty, especially younger ages. I mean, I remember myself. You're hasty to do this, to do that, and you got to get it all done, but sometimes you're not meant to get some of those things done that you're longing to get done. And then you're shown what you should be focused on, and that's part of the slow patience of anything that's worth doing, I feel like.
Right.
And I always feel that way. I think I've talked to you about this, but a lot of times when I talk to people who maybe want to like start getting into herbalism, for example, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, it's overwhelming. Like, how am I going to learn all these plants, whatever." And it's like, "Well, just accept that you're not going to. You're not going to learn them all. You might learn them over multiple lifetimes if you subscribe to that whole thing of thinking that we might, the things that you really feel drawn and called to, you probably have done them in past lives, and then you're just collecting the data each lifetime and getting better and better. And so I always just tell people like pick just like a handful of herbs, maybe start with 4. And you spend a month on each herb or something, or a week, or however long you want to spend on however long you feel like. And before you know it, you're going to have a small arsenal of herbs that you are going to be really comfortable with. And I've just always been taught from other herbalists too that it's better to have a handful of herbs that you know really, really well than having to try and fill, a notebook worth or 2 notebooks worth of all this information on all hundreds and hundreds of different plants, because then chances are you're not going to be able to remember really valuable things about each one because you're having to, store so much. And
Exactly.
so, yeah, it's just something that I try to apply to everything now in life instead of just herbs.
Yeah. No, you have to. And one thing that going back to the whole productivity talk, one thing I've been, or not so much anymore, but I was struggling with is like I had an idea of what I wanted to get done in the day, during the day, and if I didn't, it was like, oh man, what did I do? I didn't do anything today. But it all goes back to just living in flow, just going with the flow. And if you didn't handle that today, well, there's always tomorrow. You can always do it then. And same thing with like learning things. Just go with the flow and learn whatever's put in front of you at that moment. Perfect it. And then, move on to whatever else comes into your life. And yeah, it's amazing how far I've come. I got to say, I got to give myself a little props because I was so just regimented, and I needed to be productive all the time. And I feel that way now, but it's a different type of productivity because I know it's for survival, like for us to live our life. And it's a great responsibility as a woman. It's overwhelming sometimes, but I'm ready. I take it on. I take it head on. I love challenges, and yeah, it's just been great so far.
Nice. I'm with you, sister. 100%. Seriously. The productive thing, yeah, it's interesting. And it's making me think of something that Chance had brought up a couple of weeks ago when after I think it was after the Vibrant we were on, and I said to him, I was like, I always think about you when I'm getting ready for my podcast because you've been at it for so long, and I'd love to pick your brain one time. I said, I know you're a super busy guy, but if you have a moment, I'd love to whatever talk with you. And he just said something about not changing his mindset of not being busy actually, and it's not being busy. And I was like, wow, that's actually pretty profound because when you're always telling yourself, oh, I'm so busy, I'm just always so busy, it ends up like, I don't know, you can kind of train yourself to then avoid certain things or not get certain things done because you're just always busy. And it's not to say you don't have a lot to do or whatever, and that's okay. But I really liked his outlook on that. And I've actually kept it in the back of my mind when I'm thinking about myself and I'm feeling like that or whatever, and just kind of just to like change the mindset. And as I've gone on my journey, just learning how much mindset is actually like the key to pretty much everything, and to allowing yourself to grow and be in flow, and how important that is. And it's not to say, there's a thin line too of, feeling like you need to get something done. Like how, let me stop and re-say that. So I feel like there's a thin line, because it's like you can, there's one thing of like, yes, be in flow, always in flow, and just allow things to come to you or whatever. And I have like two ways of looking at that. It's like, yes, I'll be in flow and allow things to come, but there's always work that needs to be done to get into the flow. The idea of just thinking that, okay, the universe is just going to give me all these divine messages of when I'm supposed to start my project. Well, those messages aren't coming. Okay, well, maybe it's not time to start. Well, maybe it isn't time, but maybe there's something else that could be done to get you into the point where you're gonna get the message. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I've had multiple conversations with multiple people that I love dearly. And there is sometimes that disconnect of like, well, I'll just wait. I just wait for the sign. And it's like, well, you might be waiting your whole life.
Um,
Sometimes you have to create the energy to turn that sign on. And I
yeah.
just think that there's a thin line. But I think people who are more into self-sufficiency, homesteading, whatever you want to call it, kind of have that on lockdown, have the idea of being in flow, because you have to be open to anything happening, because there's so many possibilities, especially if you have animals and land and responsibility and children and all this stuff. Like, anything can happen at any moment. And that's true for almost anybody if you don't have animals or don't have children as well. But yeah, I've just found that people in that mindset kind of have that on lockdown, and they're living true in that sense.
Yeah. And for me, having a daily practice is key.
Mhm.
Me connecting to the divine, to nature, to whatever. Um, that just taking a few moments to take a few breaths, to come back into your body, and just doing that little thing helps so much. And I don't know, it's that having a daily practice is something I've struggled with, but I know it's good for me, and I know that helps me stay in flow and connect to whatever messages that I need to receive that day, or get the answers I need. And I don't know, it's just when you connect back into your body, and you just start following your intuition, it's amazing the things that open up. Like, we really are meant to just listen to that small voice, however you get your intuition, that little sign. Mine, I get a feeling in my tummy, like my lower abdomen, like almost. I I only know this because I can compare it to if I did something bad in the past, or if I messed up. I just get this like really weird guilty feeling, and not so much I'm guilty about whatever sign that's coming in. It's just that's the feeling I get. So I know, um, okay, I need to listen to whatever is happening in front of me, or I need to do it this way. And with cooking, like I not so much I try not to follow recipes. Like I'll look at recipes or talk with people and get ideas from them, but I also just change them. Like, I'll follow my intuition on certain things and add a little bit of this, or, subtract this, and it seems to be working out. So, listening to your intuition is key. One of the keys. I'm sure this has been said many times before, and I hate to beat a dead horse, but do it. It will open up the magic in this world like you can't believe.
Yeah, beat the horse, man, because that it's like I think it's a constant reminder that everybody needs to hear, even when you are in tune with your intuition. Sometimes you get wrapped up in stuff that's going on, and you literally block yourself off from it depending on what's going on, and I like that, like how you said that, because I too get, I think probably everybody gets these certain sensations, but a lot of people maybe ignore them. But I too have that same thing where it's like something embarrassing. My default was always embarrassment. It was like, oh, you go
Yeah.
right to embarrassment when something comes up that, yeah, it's not savory, or you don't want to talk about it or whatever. And it's almost like this, I get like a heat in my face.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's
Yeah.
embarrassment, you're getting red or whatever. But it's really funny because it's like it will be in my face, and it's almost like I get a tingle or something. And a lot of times I find my hits come through, like literally I hear it clear as day, like somebody is saying it out loud. Like I hear the voice, like I hear it. And now I'm way better at just being like, okay, yeah, do it. But every time when you don't do it, it's literally almost like instant. It comes back instantly if you decide that you didn't, okay, move that glass because it's going to fall off the table. Literally 5 minutes. If you didn't move the glass, falls off the table. I mean,
Yeah.
numerous times. And you can talk to so many people about this because a lot of people have that same experience with it. But it is one of the parts. It's just one of the best ways to get to know yourself better too, and to gain self-confidence and confidence in other people, and then spreading the just you doing it yourself. You're like radiating, that out to tune in, and maybe don't check out, just tune in. You
Yeah.
can drop out, but just like tune in. Don't check out though, because I think that's where that's what Timothy Leary got wrong, was the checkout part.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there really. But in terms of cooking and spending time in the kitchen, what's your favorite thing to make? One of your favorite meals to prepare?
Oh my goodness. That's hard. Let's see. I've really perfected this beef stew that when I make things, I like to make like large batches so I don't have to cook for a few days, or you can freeze it, save it for later. Like it just makes sense. You put all this effort into something, just make a big batch to either share or freeze or continue to eat for days. Beef stew is just this time of year. It is so good. It is so good to have. Just hearty potatoes, carrots, celery, garlic, butter, all the good things. And if you can locally source that stuff, even better, you know. I enjoy making stews right now and just soups because it's that time of year. Um, Chicken pot pie also is like, man, that is like my one of my other favorite things to make. I've perfected the butter crust. I will say that. I thought making crust was hard. You can go to the store and pick one up easy, but making it yourself, it's a little bit of a challenge, but it's not that hard if you keep doing it. Like anything, if you keep doing it, it just becomes second nature. So I would have to say beef stew, chicken pot pie. Those are my favorite things to make. Desserts. I love baking pies and just all the things that are probably not good for us, but I'm also substituting, white sugar for honey, for maple sugar, for things that our bodies can process a little better. And, it's okay to have, if your body can take it, it's okay to have white sugar. Everyone's different. Everyone's diet's different. There is no go-to thing. It's whatever works for you, and listening to your body and how it reacts to when you eat that piece of pot pie or eat that cookie. How does your body react? If it's negative reaction, then you probably shouldn't consume that anymore, and yeah, but I don't know. I'm just trying to, the things that we would get in the city, that we could DoorDash and pick up easily. That is the variety of food here is definitely lacking. So I've kind of had to recreate those things myself. And it's been good to know, or it's been fun to learn those things and to know not only where it comes from, but knowing that I don't put the vegetable oil in there. I don't use all the bad things that most restaurants put in their food because it's cheaper. I just having that, I'm not like a control freak, but just having that under control and what we put in our bodies has been really good. And I did make ramen again last week. I know you saw.
Oh my God.
You commented on the first batch I made, and yeah, it's so good. And I'm out of chicken breast from our chickens, so I don't really want to go back to store-bought chicken. So the ramen is probably going to it's going to take a back seat for a while, but yeah, just learning how to recreate those things and putting quality ingredients in them and love and good intentions, it makes it 100% better. And I don't think I've ever been healthier, to be honest. It's been great. Like my clarity and just everything. Knock on wood, I haven't gotten sick this year. I probably won't get sick for a while because I don't know. I don't think about it. And if people are sick around me, I don't freak out. I know that my body can take whatever is going to come at me. If it doesn't, then I know remedies to help get it through whatever it needs to get through. But yeah, I haven't had any kind of sickness so far this year. So I think it speaks to the food and our quality of life for sure.
Yeah, totally. Oh my goodness. It makes such a big difference. And the way that you view being ill or sick too changes the game. Then so when you stop being afraid of people or going to a space or whatever, because the more and more I think about all this stuff and how they've indoctrinated all of us to believe how things are spread and everything else, is like, dude, I think about it. I'm like, if it really worked that way, everyone would be sick at all times, which I guess someone could argue that people are sick in their own way. But I mean, like coughing, sneezing, all this stuff. Just imagine if you go out into the public and you touch a door handle and then you would touch your face, that would mean that, like, if it really does transfer that way, then you'd be sick all the time. Like there'd be no time where you're not sick. So anyway, I don't put all my eggs in one basket and claim to be like a terrain theorist or a virus or whatever. I just know that there are possibilities of things that maybe could spread, that's like bacterial maybe, or like a fungus or a mold or something like that. I do think that there are things, like that, especially when it comes to animals. I know that some of the arguments are like, oh, ask a farmer if things spread and they will tell you yes, which I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
But I just think that it does work a lot differently than what they've said. And so I think just taking the fear away, yes, is totally key. And knowing that your body will be able to repair itself as it sees fit. And it might take a little time, might need a little help, but it'll get there.
Right.
And that's one of the questions I had for you actually, was what differences have you seen in yourself? And then same thing with Buffalo, health-wise, like physically, emotionally, spiritually, since you guys made the transition from Cali to Idaho.
Oh man. Well, let's see. In Cali, we were still trying to do our best in terms of watching what we ate and we would get a CSA box, which is a community supported agriculture farmers market. We'd go pick up a box and it would have, whatever's in season. We'd have enough veggies for the week. We'd throw in like a dozen eggs too. So we would utilize that box and cook using that. But most of the time, I'm just going to say it, we would end up just eating out because we were just so busy. And so in that aspect, we were, like I said before, restaurants don't use the best ingredients, and probably cooking with vegetable oils and seed oils that aren't good for us. So, but at the same time, even though we were eating the crappy food, exercise, I was still exercising. I was still doing a daily practice. I was still trying to live a life of intention. And with all those pieces together, just trying to be an overall good person in Babylon, the best that I can be, the truest self that I can be in Babylon. I didn't get sick for like 5-6 years. Like I was fine. Like nothing. I felt invincible. Like I don't know what it was. I do know what it was. It was because I was just in my body and trying to do the best that I can. And anyone that's living in a city environment, just do the same. Just do what you can to be good for your body and do good for your body and your mental health and your spirituality. Just do that, and things will fall into place. And you may or may not get sick, but I can just speak for myself. Just doing those things, I didn't get sick at all. And then we came up here and started drinking raw milk, started having raw butter. Like we cook everything we make. We use raw grass-fed butter, like everything. I try not to use oil, and if I do, then it's going to be like extra virgin olive oil, or maybe avocado oil. I don't know if that's good for you. Yeah, I've heard it's good, but I more stay towards the healthy butter fats when I'm cooking. So those things changed in our diet. The quality of eggs changed also, because even though we were getting eggs from the farmer's market, they were still washed. They were probably a month or two old. You still have to refrigerate them. But they advertise free range, and I don't know. But the lady we get our dairy from, she also provided us eggs when we got up here. And, when you crack open an egg and you see that bright orange yolk, that you're getting some good stuff. So, and they were unwashed. They were just like straight up out of the chicken that day. So that changed in our diet. What else? I tried to keep it with exercise. In terms of like exposure to cell towers, that changed completely because there's only one in town. And I allegedly busted that one. So with some orgone. So I don't know if that's doing anything anymore, but that's allegedly. So in terms of radiation, we're not really getting hit with that much anymore. And I have like orgone all over the house too. So we're in good shape, but we bettered our life basically. And things got, in terms of quality of life, it got way better. But few like maybe 3-4 months after we came here and we just started changing our diet and all that, I got so sick. Like I've talked about this before. I felt like I went through some transformation or rebirth, because I was half in, half out. I had a crazy fever. I had these pains in my back that I've never had before. Like I was just like going through some kind of growth, some kind of crazy growing pain. And I really do think that my body was just purging everything that was put in from Babylon. Whatever old life that I had, it was just getting purged in those few days that I was just so sick. And after that, getting over that, I still kept up, with the raw milk, the butter, the exercise, really going into my practice, grounding outside, even when there's snow, on the ground, just putting your feet on the ground for 20-30 minutes or just grab a tree, hang on to a tree for a little bit, just some kind of grounding. Like you said, talking with animals, talking with the plants, with the birds, just really connecting. And with doing that, I really do feel like the healthiest I've ever been. I thought I was pretty good in terms of health when we were in Southern California, but now I can go to sleep and just wake up and be ready to go. Like there's no like groggy feeling in the morning. I feel just so alive every day, just ready to take on whatever comes at me. And it's a feeling I wish and I hope everyone listening, watching can experience one day. Even if you are experiencing it now, it's amazing. But I really do think changing to a more raw diet and spiritually just connecting more with my body. As a woman, I've been like tracking my cycles and just really listening and going into my body, and I'm starting to see just more things open up for me in the magic in this place. And yeah, that I would say that's the difference. I'm more in my body, eating more raw diet compared to California, and it's great. I highly recommend for everyone to do the same.
Hear, hear. Yes. That's all great advice. And I'm so glad to hear it. And I can feel it on your energy. I even feel it through Instagram. I mean, I know it's like sounds weird. And I know we have connections like through Telegram and all that stuff, but I seriously congratulate you guys so much because I really can see you're doing the work. You want to do the work, you're putting it in, you're seeing the results. And just like anything else, when you see results, it makes you want to do more and it motivates you. And a lot of times it's hard to get motivated, but it's like all about action because a lot of times when you start the action, that's when the motivation comes. Because anyone who's anyone knows what it feels like to not have motivation. And it's really, even some of the most successful people, they're not always just motivated. It's just that they're always pushing forward and doing something, and then the motivation comes once the wheel is spinning. And I think that's one of the greatest lessons that I've learned over the years is just like you're not just going to get this divine, like sometimes you will. It's not going to be like a lightning strike of motivation that comes and then you get all this stuff done. It's just like you have to start somewhere, and then it's like a snowball, just like a very cliche sort of thing, but it's really how it works seemingly. And I love that you brought up the grounding practice because it is so important. And Mario has actually been, I think it's been maybe like 3 or 4 months now that he goes out every single morning and then multiple times a day to ground. And that has always been one of his things. He's a water sign. He's more just like always thinking and stuff like that. So sometimes he would feel like he needed more grounding. And I'll say just observing him, the amount of calm that he has, the way he's looking at work has changed even. I sense it all over him, and he just seems happier and more grounded. And, even in the snow, he's a California guy too. And he's like, I've never even really had experienced this amount of cold. And he's out there standing in the snow and he's like happy as a clam. And it's awesome to see. And so like you said, I would encourage anybody to do that. A lot of people in this community probably either already have a practice like that or know about it. But it's one of those things it's easy to get out of the habit of doing. But that is so freaking crucial. And it's really cool that you guys you're seeing your health improve like in a big, big way. And how could it not? I mean, really,
Yeah.
when you really think about it from a practical level of all the things that you've changed, and the diet is so huge and environment is everything. So yeah, bravo. I'm so proud of you guys. I really am. It's really cool. I just have I don't know, I have such a like a warm feeling from so many of the people in this community, and it's just really cool to see people who are actually doing it. They want to do these things, they talk about doing it, and then you actually see them doing it, and it's just like, heck yeah, man, keep at it.
Yeah,
Great.
I love seeing people in this community just succeed at
Mhm.
life and just finding their purpose or their other half. And it's I just any type of growth in this community, I love it. I love everyone, and we're here to just show I'm here in Buffalo. We're here to show, hey, this is possible. Anyone can do this. We're not special. Anyone can do this. You can start off with a window garden. You can get one chicken, put in your backyard. Like just do it. Don't be fearful of the unknown, and just push forward and trust, and you will get the results that you want. It's, I don't know, that's worked for us so far. I mean, just taking a leap, and not having fear, and just trusting in the divine. And yeah, that's key. That's another key also, besides following your intuition, is just trusting and stepping into the unknown.
Yep. I totally agree. And I have it's a pie question. But how did you figure out you said you sent your grandma a pie for Christmas, right?
I did, yeah.
How did you end up doing that?
Well, let's see. I actually baked the whole thing, and then I froze it. So I froze the pie, and I packed it in the box with what did I covered it, and I didn't actually put any cold in there with it. I sent another test pie to a friend after in California, and I actually packed some ice packs in there too. But it still showed up thawed. Like it didn't remain frozen. It was thawed, and I told my grandma and my friend, throw it in the oven for a little bit, and it'll taste just as like it was just came out of the oven. But I'm still trying to figure out if I send a pie like across the country, how to keep it frozen. And I feel like I need some kind of container, some insulated container. I don't know, but I can send it to people on the West Coast for sure, because it takes like 1 or 2 days to get to you. And by the time it gets to you, it's not going to be super gross and all thought like, like mushy and just old. It'll probably be semi-thawed. But yeah, I straight up just wrapped that thing in newspaper, put some ice packs around it, and threw it in the box, and somehow it made it. With all the abuse USPS does to packages, it managed to make it. So I'm still trying to perfect the whole sending thing. But if you're on the West Coast, I can definitely send you a pie.
Nice. Well, I was so stoked to see that you got one to her, because I know that yeah, that was kind of one of the things you said you were working on. So I wondered, I was like, oh, did she use dry ice? Was it this? Was it that? I just wanted to ask you that because I have you here.
No, yeah, like I should probably use dry ice and a container that's insulated, and I will try that. I'm like, you just got to try a bunch of things and see what works, and that's basically how I did that one. I just covered it. Newspaper is actually a really good insulator, so just wrapped it in that, threw some ice packs in there, and it made it safely.
Nice, dude. Yeah, because legs, if you guys haven't seen her pies, you have to just check them out on Instagram. I have their links down below. But yeah, your pies are gorgeous. I mean, you've posted them. I'm like, whoa, it's a piece of art. I mean, it really is. And I can tell that making food and being in the kitchen is part of your art. And art comes in different forms for different people. And it took me a long time to realize that it's also one of my arts. And it was weird when I was like, yeah, this is actually like my art. I think it was Mario that brought it up. He's like, so I was always like, I'm not really an artist. Like, and I always would think that because I don't draw, or I'm not, and I'm not a painter or anything. But my art came through making medicines and then also in the kitchen. And I can see that you have that in you, just by what you've posted and your passion for it and everything else. And so it's really beautiful to find our art and what kind of artists are we? Because I feel as though everybody's an artist. Some are maybe better than others at certain arts, but we all have some sort of art that we can really just kick to the sky. So it's really cool to
Yeah.
see that you're honing these skills and just making it work and figuring it out as you go. So
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I never thought I could perfect the lattice pie, that top pie crust, and
yeah.
doing a lattice actually is not that hard, believe it or not. But yeah, I've dabbled in the past with drawing, and I can draw, and I just to take the time to sit and do it. I don't know. I should make more time for that, but I get more enjoyment doing it in the kitchen. I've come to learn. Like, not saying I don't enjoy putting pen to paper and all that, because that's fun too. But I do get more enjoyment with creating things in the kitchen, whether it's canning or fermenting or baking a pie, because not only do I get to consume that deliciousness, but I get to share it with others. And that brings me joy out of everything. Just being able to share all the effort and love that I put into making whatever I'm making. That keeps me going for sure.
Nice. I like it. I feel it, and I think that you're onto something. So, well, this has been a lovely conversation, and I'm just thank you so much for your time and coming on and hanging out with me and everybody in the chat. They've been pretty active, and people have had questions. I think Cody wants to know where to reach out for pie.
Ah,
If
well, yeah, Telegram, or Instagram. I mean, what is our Instagram? You can go to either Bear Lake Alchemy or at FRC Pod on Instagram, and send us an email, falserealitycheck@protonmail.com, and we can figure it out. But yeah, I love doing it, and I'm thankful for this opportunity, Michelle, for having me on and letting me ramble a little bit on what I'm doing. And yeah, I'm such a different person than who I was, I don't know, 5 years ago in California. Like, me being in the kitchen, I never thought that would be me, you know. But now it is, and I'm happy that I stepped into that role, and I'm going to continue to be the best at that and to provide for my family and in that way, and yeah, for others too. I'm gonna figure out how to ship pies all the way to the East Coast, you know, for those that are listening and watching. Like, yeah, I want to share the love.
Nice. I like it. Yep, I'm with you. I feel like we have a very there's a kinship, because I feel as though we have a lot of crossover, and that's one of the things that I felt with you from the first time. And I have to say, you were the first person to invite me on for my own one-to-one interview on your show.
Wonderful.
And yeah, it was just great. You kind of you popped my cherry a little bit on, on that level, and I'm grateful for that. And I really enjoy you. I enjoy Buffalo. I enjoy what you guys are doing. I've said it multiple times throughout the stream, and I know you know that. And so I really, really encourage you guys to just keep on keeping on, because you're doing good things and you're helping a lot of people. And just by doing what you're doing, you're going to open doors for other people to maybe try something that they didn't think they would, because you're so right. You said it earlier, but even if you don't have a lot of space, if you are in the city, there's so many little ways that you can start doing these little tiny things to start gaining skills of just how to plant seeds, how to germinate seeds properly. What does it need? Sometimes it won't work, sometimes it will. And so it is all about experimentation. And I think that's literally what life is about, whether we're being experimented on or we're experimenting with something else or I think there's just a plethora of experiments going on at all times, and you can be your own mad scientist. And that's the beauty of what's going on here. So if you have any other plugs that you want to say, if you have what's your next episode coming up with False Reality Check, the platform is yours to tell the people what they should be looking out for from you in Buffalo.
Oh my goodness. Well, my other half is Buffalo. He's off screen. I'm sure he's in the chat. I think I saw some of his comments pop up there. But yeah, we're False Reality Check. You can find us on Instagram at FRC Pod, Telegram, t.me/false reality check. We're pretty heavily engaged in those two areas. If you ever wanted to reach out, we love when folks send us what they're doing on their homestead or to better their life, to live a more intentional life. We love seeing pictures come in there and people letting us know, hey, we're doing this, we're getting out of the city, we're moving to our homestead, and we just love that stuff. So please come in and share the love. we're actually, I should say, Buffalo has been designing a website that's pretty much going to help content creators, whether it's you're selling art, products, knowledge, whatever. It's weird. It's called weirdlot.com. You want to go, it's WYRD lot.com. If you know, you know, because we are a bunch of weirdos. So with that site, with that platform, we just want to create a place that people can come in, content creators can come in and sell their goods that they're making, sell, their art, whatever, whether it be digital or tangible, anything that they're creating. It's going to be a marketplace for selling and creating goods from friends, listeners, supporters. The main goal of this site is to just prop people up and to give them a place to sell their stuff. That's not Etsy. That's not Patreon. You hear all the shady stories coming out about these other various sites that you might not want to be a part of, that dark magic. But like whatever, we're trying to go create our own thing for people to go to and come in and sell their stuff. And anything that we take is going to go straight back into the site to help make it better. So it's all just to help promote people. So if that sounds like your thing, go weirdlot.com, WYRDlot.com. And that's like one of the big things that we're starting up right now. Other than False Reality Check, we're still going to release one episode a week. We've been having crazy internet issues. So as far as like guests coming on, we're trying to figure that out. But we're going to have more shows with just Buffalo and I, and bring in guests now and then until we can figure out our internet issue. But yeah, I think that's it. I had a great time, Michelle. Thank you so much.
On. Yeah, you're welcome. I had a great time too. It flew by, and it typically
really
I will say, I mean, just starting this journey with this podcast, it's been like, there's all this anticipation, leading up, and it's really just this ball of excitement, I feel like. And then I'm in and I'm talking, and it's just like, oh, it's done. Okay.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting thing. I've been just like loving each step of the process. It's been really cool. So I'm super happy to be able to have the platform to have you on, and it won't be the last time. And I'd love to have you and Buffalo on together. And it would be really fun to just like have a little powwow with both of you. So with that said, I will let you go. I've got a couple of updates for anyone who wants to stick around and hear updates, but I will release you from the healing home. And yeah, thank you again. And I hope you guys have a lovely evening. And I know I'll be talking to you real soon.
For sure. Thank you, Michelle. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a fantastic job. Seriously.
Yeah, thank you, my lady. I appreciate it.
All right. Peace.
All right. See you later. Okay, people, thank you so much for being here. That was a really great conversation. I knew it would be. I knew we'd have a lot to talk about, because one of my favorite things to talk about is kitchen witchery and homemaking and getting into these practices that our ancestors had for so many years. It was the way that, they brought us up. They kept us alive. All of these practices that are kind of now becoming a little more popular. People are wanting to do it. This is stuff that was like everyday living for as long as the eye can see. So the more you're able to connect with these things, the more you're able to connect with your ancestors and who you truly are. They're going to be supporting you and cheering you on the whole way. So I've got just a couple of slides here for update stuff. Pull this up here for you guys. And whoops, still learning these buttons here. So, all right. Next week's show, it's just going to be me, solo show. So I'm going to be talking about kitchen witchery and Saturnian medicine, because we are in Capricorn. It is the time of Saturn. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. And what my journey has been with herbs. Where's my comfort pocket with herbal medicine and learning about herbs and sharing herbs. That's what I want to talk to people about a little bit more, and just what I do with my with my practices with herbs and everything else. So we'll get into that next week, same time, same place. So that's January 10th at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And again, I said it last week, but I do have soap and shampoo bars that are now available. They're ready to go. And, not to be a spoiler, but these are actually going to be my full moon offering coming up this month. I'm releasing the newsletter on the 6th of January while the moon is full. And if you haven't signed up for that newsletter yet, I encourage you to do so, because in each newsletter, not only do I have the products available, but I also share recipes of what I'm offering. So sign up for that at my website, michelleshealinghome.com, and then that'll come to you once a month on the full moon. And again, here's my menu for anyone who's interested of the things that I have available. I went through this last week, so if you're watching, you'll be able to see this stuff. One little thing to note: I have some fresh herb tinctures right now, but I only have them available in 2-ounce bottles. So that's just one of the notes I wanted to make sure to let everybody know about. And otherwise, if you haven't already, you can reach out to me, michelleshealinghome@gmail.com. My website, same name, michelleshealinghome.com. And then I'm also on Instagram under the same name. You can also text me if you're more comfortable with texts. You can text me at 503-568-1569. And I also offer consultations. So if you're wanting to talk to me about anything specific having to do with herbs or homemaking, even if you're wanting to really like hone in on learning how to make certain remedies, maybe you're wanting to get some more recipes under your belt, I could help you with that. So you can also find out more information about all of that on my website. And with all that said, I will bid you all adieu and say goodnight. And I hope to see you guys next week, where we'll be talking about kitchen witchery and Saturn medicine. Very excited for that one. All righty. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great night.